Can you guys believe all the flooding out west? I really think we need to do something about global warming. It's the number one issue.
I agree. I think it's a very important issue, yeah.
Stop. Everyone stop right now. Don't be ridiculous. I know there are many issues in today's society, including global warming, pollution, limited clean water, poverty, and racism. Some of these have only become apparent in our recent history, while others run much deeper and older. There is one deep-seated issue that continues to infuriate me. This issue is white supremacy. White supremacy is the belief that white people constitute a superior race and should therefore dominate society. This issue first arose a millennia ago with slavery and anti-Semitism and still remains a persistent problem today. One may not see the immediate connection between slavery and anti-Semitism, but both involve white, Christian, largely European people positioning themselves as superior. When you perceive someone as different and even subhuman, violence becomes all too easy. The slow, painful, and public murder of George Floyd by a police officer in May 2020 epitomizes the problem of white supremacy. Do you really think the police officer would have used so much unnecessary force if the victim was white? Videos of the incident show a white police officer holding Floyd on the ground with his knee to his neck for 15 minutes straight. During this time, Floyd was constantly telling the officer he could not breathe. This eventually led to Floyd losing consciousness and dying. In this case, Floyd was not resisting, so the officer had no right to apply any force at all. If Floyd was white, the officer would not have seen him as such a big threat and would not have pinned him after no sign of resisting. This needs to stop. Cases such as George Floyd's death are terrifyingly common. Dante Wright, Andre Hill, Manuel Ellis, these are all names of black men that were undeservingly murdered by police officers. Say their names. They are not just statistics. How would you feel if your rights were violated just because you aren't white? As a privileged white kid, I have always thought of police officers as a source of safety if I was ever in trouble, never as a source of danger, only as a source of disappointment if they were to give me a ticket. Overall, the U.S. criminal justice system is very flawed, and according to a California study, the ACLU found that black people are 3 times more likely to be stopped by police officers than white people. You might think this is only an American statistic, and Canada doesn't have a white supremacy problem. However, in Toronto, our home, black people make up 8% of the population, but represent 37% of the victims of police violence-induced deaths. Too often, Canadians see themselves as better than the US, but in reality, we're not better, and we need to acknowledge we also discriminate so that we can solve this problem. The reason white supremacy continues century after century is because the ruling class doesn't want to give up the power that they gain by exploiting others. In other words, we are the problem. It is not just a few bad people, it is all of us. As James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. We must acknowledge this issue and face it together as one unified people. Once we demolish white supremacy, we will be able to move forward and never look back. Some steps we could take to achieve this are defunding the police and increasing funding for community support. Other things we should be doing is teaching critical race theory in schools and being more selective of who is hired onto the police force. I know I'm ranting about this, but I think everyone should be.